OnlyFans model coldly executes man. From victim to perpetrator. In the dark pages of American criminal history, the Chelsea Perkins case stands out as a complex story of justice, revenge, and the terrible consequences of taking justice into one's own hands. This is the story of a 35-year-old woman from Virginia, a Coast Guard veteran who later became an OnlyFans model, who transformed from an alleged rape victim into a cold-blooded killer. On a cold morning on March 9, 2021, the tranquility of Cuyahoga Valley National Park in Ohio was shattered by a horrifying discovery. Regular hikers seeking peace in nature's embrace inadvertently became witnesses to a brutal crime. Around 11 a.m., they discovered the body of Matthew Dunmire, 31, lying motionless in the secluded forest. His death had not come naturally. A bullet had pierced through the back of his head, ending his life suddenly and cruelly. The subsequent investigation revealed a complex story of personal vengeance spanning several years. Chelsea Perkins, the woman later identified as the perpetrator, had harbored deep hatred toward Dunmire for 4 long years. She accused him of raping her in 2017, a serious allegation that had corroded her soul and ultimately led to the 2021 tragedy. Perkins, with her background as a respected Coast Guard veteran, had undergone major life changes after leaving the military. She transitioned to modeling on the OnlyFans platform, a significant career change reflecting the challenges many veterans face when reintegrating into civilian life. However, beneath the exterior of a woman trying to rebuild her life, Perkins was nurturing a cruel revenge plan. 4 days before Dunmire's body was discovered, on March 5, 2021, he had spent a normal evening with colleagues at a local bar. No one could have suspected this would be the last time they would see him alive. During casual conversation with colleagues, Dunmire shared that he was about to meet a girl he had met online who was currently in the area. This was Chelsea Perkins, who had carefully planned to lure him into a deadly trap. Dunmire's boss, with keen observational eyes, witnessed him getting into a white car and leaving. This vehicle, as the investigation later revealed, belonged to Perkins's husband, showing that the incident had been carefully planned and may have involved multiple people. The two then drove to an Airbnb apartment that Perkins had rented in advance, a detail showing the thoroughness in preparing for the impending crime. The next day, March 6th, Dunmire was still alive and seemingly unaware of the tragic fate awaiting him. He texted his girlfriend about plans to donate plasma and return home, normal activities of a young man living his everyday life. However, fate had arranged otherwise. Authorities, through tracking his phone signals, determined that he had gone to the Terra Vista Nature Research Area of the national park. Around 10:29 a.m., in his final message to his girlfriend, Dunmire wrote, "All right, I'll see you in a bit." Final words full of hope for a future he would never witness. Less than an hour later, between 11:30 and 11:50 a.m., a couple hiking in the forest heard gunshots, the deadly sound that signaled the end of a life. Other witnesses in the forest also provided important clues about the perpetrator. Another couple had encountered a woman with a notable appearance in the forest. She was dressed entirely in black, from a hoodie to knee-high boots. This woman, later identified as Perkins, appeared confused and emotionless, a sign that could indicate her psychological state after committing the crime. She had lied, saying she was looking for a cemetery and was lost, a fabricated story to conceal the brutal act she had just committed. Electronic trace tracking played a crucial role in the investigation. Technology experts analyzed data from Dunmire's phone, tracking his every movement in his final days. They recovered messages, calls, and GPS location data, creating an accurate timeline of the victim's activities. Simultaneously, investigation into Perkins's personal information, including credit card transaction history, Airbnb rental records, and online activities, helped investigators piece together the missing pieces of the story. On March 30th, 2021, after 3 weeks of active investigation, investigators had sufficient grounds to execute a search warrant at Perkins's home in Arlington. This was not a hasty decision, but the result of meticulous legal preparation. Prosecutors worked closely with police to ensure the search warrant was issued legally and comprehensively, including the right to seize weapons, ammunition, electronic devices, and any evidence related to the case. This was a crucial breakthrough, in the case when they discovered Perkins's personal weapons cache. In a carefully locked safe, investigators found a .40 caliber pistol, along with corresponding ammunition boxes. Even more notably, they also discovered documents related to gun purchases, weapon ownership permits, and even receipts for ammunition purchases from local stores. This evidence not only proved Perkins had access to weapons, but also showed she had prepared with a plan for her actions. Forensic experts immediately conducted ballistic evidence comparisons. They test-fired the gun seized from Perkins's home to create standard bullet samples. This process was conducted in a strictly controlled laboratory environment, using the same type of ammunition they found at the suspect's home. Experts used comparison microscopes to analyze microscopic marks on the fatal bullet and the test bullets. Beyond weapon evidence, investigators also discovered much other circumstantial evidence at Perkins's home. They found black clothing similar to what witnesses described seeing her wear in the forest on the day of the incident. Forensic experts conducted fiber analysis and found pollen grains and plant debris characteristic of the forest where Dunmire's body was found. DNA collected from the clothing also matched samples found at the scene, creating an unbreakable chain of evidence. Analysis of electronic devices revealed additional important details about Perkins's motives and plans. Computer experts recovered internet search history, showing she had researched Cuyahoga Valley National Park, hiking trails, and even information about Dunmire before committing the crime. They also found evidence that she had created fake social media profiles to contact the victim, showing the high degree of calculation and planning in the crime. Chelsea Perkins finally had to face unavoidable legal reality. After deep discussions with her legal team and family, she decided to accept the plea agreement proposed by prosecutors. This decision not only demonstrated acknowledgement of responsibility for her actions, but was also a final attempt to avoid more severe sentences that could have occurred if the case had gone to jury trial. On May 27th, in a tense courtroom session, closely followed by the media, Chelsea Perkins formally pleaded guilty to 2 serious charges: second-degree murder and using and carrying a firearm in a violent crime on federal property. However, the final sentence will depend on the court's decision at the sentencing hearing scheduled for September 9, 2025. Ultimately, the Chelsea Perkins case will forever serve as a reminder of the devastating consequences of allowing emotions and desire for revenge to override reason. A woman with potential and an entire future ahead destroyed her own life and took another person's life in a moment filled with hatred. This is a tragedy that could have been avoided if psychological and legal support systems had intervened more timely and effectively.